everybody. Welcome into Concrete Jungle, a New York baseball podcast here on FingerLakes1.com. Paul Russo, Kyle Evans here with you as always. It was what I can only describe to be a collective, miserable weekend of New York baseball across the board. It was not good, from obviously the Mets and the Yankees down to the Red Wings and S-Mets. A lot of losing, a lot of tough breaks. And we'll get down to all of it pretty much here. But, yeah, I'm sure, Kyle, for you, wasn't the best weekend for the viewing portion of baseball for you.
Yeah, the thing was, I actually thought they were going to win the series, and I think a lot of people did. But with this team, I think at this point, nothing is surprising when these types of things go on. It's like they find new ways to lose. They find new ways to, make fans miserable. And, yeah, I think we've said this way too many times on, like, a Monday. Another miserable weekend for the New York teams, and that was the case again.
Yeah, and we'll jump into obviously all of it, but, the Yankees, I thought, I thought I would have to be eating my words a little bit. If you were to even ask me, I think post-game Saturday even, only because I thought, and we'll jump into obviously all of this more in depth, I thought the pitching collectively, up until, I'd say, what I will call the seventh inning yesterday for the Yankees was really good. And then, for the Mets, at least I think the main talking points happened off the field for a change with them, as opposed to on the field, because there wasn't a ton of positivity on the field this weekend for them. Especially Saturday, which nobody will be able to deny that there was definitely football being played across the great country of America. So that happened. And, yeah, we'll jump into a bunch of, I would say, interesting topics today, because it's a lot of stuff that I guess maybe we have talked about to a degree, but maybe a couple other things that maybe we haven't talked about more in depth on, and all of a sudden I guess maybe one or two of them really came to light over the weekend, and we can kind of jump on in and get to it. So we'll do that. But first, thank a couple of our sponsors. Sano Propane, 4 generations strong, as a trustworthy family-owned business with unmatched customer service. You can go online at DesanoPropane.com for more information, or call them toll-free at 1-800-752-4574 today. Since 1937, the difference has been DeSanto Propane and Cicino's Pizzeria and Restaurant. You can visit Cicino's Pizzeria and Restaurant at their original Waterloo location, their all-new renovated location in Geneva, or at Del Lago Resort and Casino. Dine-in, takeout, delivery, catering, and banquets. Order online at Ciccino's.com. Live, laugh, and eat well. It's the Italian way. So let's start with the Yankees here, Kyle, today, and lose the series to Miami and the Marlins, who good team, still in contention. I think we kind of know where they're kind of feeling out, though, for the rest of the year. And like I said, I do want to start here up until, in my mind, the 7th inning, really, I guess, yesterday. Maybe, I don't know. Depends, I guess, how you really want to classify it. Up until, the end of the game, really, yesterday, I thought the pitching for the Yankees was pretty good to great all series long collectively. Obviously, could have been better in maybe some spots, but it's obviously not the pitching's fault that the offense just didn't really help them, Saturday, and frankly made Sandy Alcantara look like he did last year on Saturday for the most part. Complete game, 1 run that he gave up, but all that to say, kind of like one of those things where it's like, and this is something I think for both teams kind of stands the point here, and we're going to talk more about it, I think, with the Mets and the Yankees here, but one of those things where it's like they kind of just have this great thing maybe building, maybe a 1 or 2 piece type thing almost in a way, right, that you can build upon, only to kind of what I would call toddler it and knock down all the blocks, and next thing you know, you have to build the base up and kind of get back to work, and that's the way it kind of felt this weekend. The Yankees collectively, like I said, the pitching was pretty good to borderline great all weekend long, and the offense just for the most part just didn't do their job.
Yeah, you said it well. They get some momentum in a game, and they just don't carry it over to the next, and they haven't been winning series. Their last series win against a non-Royals or A's team is June 23rd.
Yep.
Their last road series win was June 4th.
Mhm.
They're just not winning series. So, I mean, what do you expect? Their record kind of just basically tells it all. They're actually lucky to still be over 500. They have not done well against teams not named the Royals or the A's.
Yeah, and that's, something that, again, I kind of go back to what I talked about, and I don't want to bang the drum too much on it. But, it goes back to something I said Thursday, where it's like it's this pretty much the same team that has been there now since the end of the Girardi era and all the way through. One thing I did want to talk about, at least in regards to the offense, and in my mind, maybe a slight positive. It seems as though, at least from the weekend, and hopefully it's something that he can build upon here, obviously, as a rookie, but Andy Volpe kind of found a bit of a power stroke this weekend. Obviously, 2 home runs in the three games, but the at-bats I saw from him were the wrong window to look out, Kyle, when the train's going through. But
I thought I heard rain. I was
oh,
like, what?
no, not quite. But yeah, it seemed as though his at-bats this weekend were a bit more, I don't want to say like maybe necessarily powerful, but they were much more maybe meaningful in a way. And I don't want to make it sound like he hasn't been taking like meaningful swings or at-bats or anything like that. That's not what I mean. But what I mean by that is just much more trying to put a good stroke on the ball. And it paid off, at least obviously with a couple home runs and everything, and I know, we talked about obviously the chicken parm stuff, and maybe with Volpe we haven't talked too much about since the Dylan Lawson firing, but maybe this is where a guy like Sean Casey is, making those adjustments and tweaks now, or with, say a guy like Volpe, because, when I look back on it, and obviously it's something that we talk about a ton between me and you, Kyle, here on the podcast, is even though, our ages are somewhat close-ish, we're kind of from 2 different generations of baseball at this point. I remember Sean Casey very well, and I don't want to say like Volpe swinging just like Casey. It's not quite that way, but I think the way Casey batted, I think that's the way he's teaching some of these young guys like Volpe, and it's kind of translating over because Sean Casey, yeah, he had some power, but he was more of an average guy, and he never took what I would call, like I said, these non-meaningful swings, and I think maybe some of that's translating over now. We kind of see this result, maybe slowly but surely, with a guy like Volpe.
Yeah, I think you said it well. It seems like he's more relaxed and more patient. He's letting the ball come to him, letting the ball travel deeper. And I thought it was interesting, too, on Friday when he hit that 3-run homer to make it 3-0. He looked over in the dugout and pointed and seemed to be a little more fired up than usual. And I'm wondering, this probably is maybe to do with Sean Casey's energy, because you know how he is. And maybe it's just a sign that the kid, is finally feeling more comfortable. He's showing more emotion, trying to get his team going. And, I mean, at this point, the Yankees could use anyone to get going. And if Volpe can be the guy and Glaber to kind of get this team turned around, I think that would be huge.
Yeah, it's interesting, too, because of the timing of it all, right? And 7 years ago yesterday was the anniversary, or whatever you want to call it, of Tyler Austin and Aaron Judge going back-to-back in their debuts. And obviously, kind of completely different circumstances, right? I'm not saying that either are the same or similar, but, think about the jolt that those two kind of gave, them and Gary at the end of that 2016 season, where the Yankees were considered sellers at the deadline, right? But they were still in it until the final week, and it was a lot because of these guys that they called up. Kind of makes me wonder a little bit. You see Volpe kind of maybe finding some stuff a little bit here, and maybe allegedly we might be seeing Everson Pereira up at some point. Maybe this is a little bit of a similar situation. Like, maybe do you call the other guys up with Volpe in this quote-unquote class of next Yankee players, and maybe something similar kind of happens? I don't know, but kind of a thought here. But did you have news over there just now? It's the face you give me when you have, like, breaking news pop up.
Well, I don't know if I missed something over the weekend.
Uh-oh.
Because you said at the open that we were going to talk maybe about Verlander.
Right.
And now 13 minutes ago he releases like a Twitter statement. about the Mets.
Yeah. That
Uh,
we'll be getting into that.
I didn't know he said something over the weekend.
Well, it wasn't him. It was a report that came out about him and Scherzer. We'll get to that.
Okay.
That's a good tease. Good tease, as we call them in business. Kind of the last thing I really want to talk about with the Yankees here, and it's going to be a bit maybe repetitive, but it's kind of hard to, I'd say, ignore it at this point. Aaron Boone postgame yesterday on Sunday made kind of what I just call the same dog and pony show comments at this point. And I don't know. To me, they just seemed more ridiculous yesterday than before for whatever reason. I don't know why. I don't know if it was just the way the Yankees lost yesterday, where, Clay Holmes has frankly kind of turned it around, since May and June and kind of seemed to have got it figured out a little bit, and goes in and has, frankly, dare I say, his worst, honestly, outing of the year. And I'm not blaming, obviously, that, Holmes and his stuff on Boone, but, post-game where Boone's like, oh, what can you do at this point? You just have to put on your cap and move on. Well, you can't just keep saying that when this is just your regularly scheduled, whatever you want to call it, 5 p.m. presser as you're about to get on the plane and go play the best team in baseball. I get it. Obviously, that's part of it at this point. And, I've been a part of teams in that way. I'm sure you have too, Kyle, where it's like you can't seem to get anything going right or anything like that in that sense. And maybe that's where that comment, I wouldn't be as upset with it in essence. But, you had the Marlins where you need them to be to just shut down and move on. And like I said, you get a series win. I think we're having a completely different conversation on a lot of things today regarding the Yankees. But the fact of the matter is, you didn't. And not much has changed. And these comments, I guarantee, we'll sit here on Thursday and we may not talk about it, but I guarantee the comments post-game Wednesday after they presumably lose the series to Atlanta is like, well, what can you do? Put your cap on and move on. And maybe that one's a little bit more understandable just given where the Braves are to a degree. But, you just can't – to me, it's ridiculous to say that after you had literally the Marlins by the huevos and you let them go, more or less.
Yeah, I was actually going to tweet something out yesterday. I don't know about you, but I've noticed lately listening to Boone post-game that he just seems relaxed. Like a few weeks ago, even a month ago, reporters asking him questions and he's just more fired up.
Do you think that's like a resigned to the fate type thing for him?
Yeah, there was a couple times over the weekend too where he's kind of I guess I would say giggling a little bit. He's like, yeah, we got to get going. It's like he's not staring down a reporter or really getting angry like he once was a month or so ago. So it seems like now he's just something switched in his head where he's not going to get angry. And it's that's probably the wrong thing to do. You need some anger as a manager.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that's just a sign of somebody, I think, being resigned to their fate at this point, almost in a way, which I don't know what to believe, frankly, at this point. And it's something that we talked about last week. I don't want to spend time really today harping on it, but it's pretty apparent that ownership, the change that they want to see, is not going to be at the GM spot. It's going to be at the managerial spot. And I don't know. Again, I get it. I'm not going to sit here and act as if Boone has been a tremendously over the top great manager, or even probably remotely great manager, right? But I mean, to me, I can't place full blame on him, and I think we all know what his role within the team is, and we know who's actually pulling the strings and actually making the decisions for the most part.
Yeah, and Cashman put together a team that's just not what they keep saying, a championship caliber team. That's far from it. I mean, they really seriously don't have a left fielder still. They keep plugging in different guys. If you look up and down their lineup, the other day, you have Oswaldo Cabrera, Ben Rortvedt, and who was it? Some other guy. I'm drawing a blank, but you just kind of laugh at the bottom three, bottom four. It's now you know why this offense hasn't been good.
Right. And like I said, maybe that's the thing. You brought up Cabrera, you bring up Rortvedt. that mostly was the one who contributed a little bit yesterday too, in addition to say Volpe and I know Stanton. Obviously, what was it, second inning I forget which inning, but like, just like, and it's something that we've talked more about the Mets this year than the Yankees, but like, just let these young guys just figure it out at this point. You know, I don't know. It's whatever at this point. All right, let's do some updating roster stuff here for the Yankees. So DJ LeMahieu, slated to return tonight, Monday night, in the lineup in Atlanta, after apparently being good to go yesterday, though.
Yeah, we've heard.
Which seems to be
Friday.
which seems to be a very New York Yankee thing at this point to do with him. So I'm not surprised that they held him out, knowing it. But it sounds like he was actually pretty perturbed by not being in the lineup even at least yesterday, let alone the whole weekend. But for sure yesterday when he knew that he was good to go, and it looks like he'll be back tomorrow or tonight. But like I said, it seems though he was the one more upset than anything else that he wasn't able to be in the lineup yesterday.
Yeah, we heard Friday night, emergency situation only. Saturday we heard that he's feeling good and he's available off the bench. And then Sunday we expect to see him in the lineup. He's still not in the lineup. Just a total Yankee thing to do. Yeah, he's supposed to be back tonight, but this team, who knows?
It's fair. Yeah, I mean, who knows? All right, Carlos Rodon threw 2 sim innings in Miami. This now in turn will send him to the complex in Tampa for live batting practice. In hopes of being activated on August 22nd, the first day that he is available to do so. So yeah, I did. Excuse me, I did see video of him throwing in Lone Depot Park in Miami. Did look, as I say, because you don't know what his body's actually feeling like. Structurally, he looked fine. So does seem to be one of those things where it's, you know,
take your time.
I do agree that he'll probably be I do agree though that he'll probably be activated on next Tuesday when he's officially able to.
Take your time. We don't need your 4 innings, 6 runs allowed, and 4 walks.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
I'd take
Sorry.
that at this point over Severino, which we'll get to anyway here in a minute. Where am I? There we are. Nestor Cortez, speaking of left-handed pitchers, placed on the 15-day injured list. This happened after we got done on Thursday even, in a classic case of whatever. With left rotator cuff strain, he'll not throw for 3 to 4 weeks, more or less putting that at a lost season at this point for Nestor. Same shoulder that was obviously the cause of his IL stint before, but it's one of those things where it's kind of funny how we were talking Thursday, literally Thursday, about how that was looking like his best start of the year that he had last week, and now that probably is going to be it for Nestor, this at least regular season, probably the season period, the way everything's tracking.
Yeah, it was caught me off guard. You know, like you said, we talked about how good of an outing it was. He was throwing harder. He looked really good. So I don't know. It seems like he's having problems with his recovery, with pain, and then that came up, and I don't know. Lost season sucks because he was so good last year and the year before, half a year before. So yeah, this rotation's, man, taking a big hit.
Yeah, it certainly has. All right. Anthony Rizzo, he joined the team in Miami. He's obviously from down there, still lives down there. Played catch, did some light running, but that's it activity-wise for him still. Still no exact timetable for him to return, as they call it, still week to week.
Shut him down. 44 games left.
I mean, I don't know about maybe a full-fledged shutdown type thing, but...
Hasn't even hit yet. He's screwed.
Yeah, I mean, but concussions are a weird thing. But, yeah, I kind of lean with you here to a degree, Kyle. I don't know if I'd be risking even the slightest nudge could set him back. So I get that he wants to be with the team, and I don't maybe have a necessary problem with that. You know, if he wants to sit in the dugout and everything, but I don't know if I'd have him even doing the light running or playing catch type thing at this point.
Yeah, I mean, if he can't hit, why is he doing this other stuff? Clearly, it's still impacting him in some way. But yeah, I just don't see the need. I really don't think this team's a playoff team or going to make the playoffs. So, like, no need to bring him back, really.
All right, let's move on to a couple names we haven't talked about in a while. Specifically, the first one, really. And that's Scott Efros. That's right, the righty reliever from Chicago last year. So he hopes to begin throwing live batting practice in September or October. It'd probably be the later half of September for that. But he has been rehabbing at the complex in Tampa, and everything's been going to plan with him. But the other right-hander reliever or starter in this situation that the Yankees have been weighing on, Frankie Montas, appears to be lost for the 2023 season, as he has not had any major breakthrough in rehabbing his shoulder. As we were looking last month even that it was looking pretty positive, now not so much. So a bit of a tale of two different stories going on for a couple of Yankee arms acquired at the 2022 trade deadline.
Well, it's safe to say that was one of Cashman's worst trades in his career, and yeah, it's crazy to me that Garrett Cole is the only one standing in that projected opening day rotation with all these injuries and all the things that have popped up. And he's a guy that's always been reliable, hasn't missed a game, always goes out there and, provides always the best performance. I think Garrett Cole is actually living up to his contract now. He has 16 starts this year with 2 earned runs or less. I mean, that's exactly an ace. It's just, I don't know, I just find it crazy that all these guys just get injured every year and he's always standing. Throwing 99 miles an hour, never injured. You don't really find those guys a lot in this league.
No.
Even Scherzer, Verlander, those guys go on the IL. Garrett Cole doesn't go on the IL.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy. All right, a couple of moves that were made. Nick Ramirez was optioned to AAA Scranton Wilkes-Barre. Right-handed pitchers Johnny Brito and Randy Vasquez, as we know, recalled from AAA Scranton Wilkes-Barre. Both were, well, Johnny was only down there for, about 12 hours, give or take. But joking aside, both ended up getting some work over the weekend there. So let's change focus to look ahead for the Yankees. They head to Atlanta for 3 games to face the MLB best Braves. Starting tonight, MLB Network 7:20 first pitch. Clark Schmidt against Max Fried. Tuesday 7:20 on Yes or TBS, depending upon your market. Luis Severino against Bryce Elder. And then Wednesday 7:20 on Amazon Prime or MLB Network, depending upon your market. It will be Randy Vasquez going against Charlie Morton. It's a wild twist of fate where I feel like the Yankees' best chance goes up against the Braves. I mean, I guess second ace after Spencer Strider at this point, and Max Fried, even though it's a smaller sample size, probably doing a bit better than Strider, because of just the fact that Clark Schmidt's been that much on the past month and a half at this point. And look, this is where the Yankees kind of find themselves at this point, where you go Schmidt to Severino to Vasquez. And I don't mean to knock Vasquez in this case, because when he's had been called upon, he's done really great, in my opinion. But in a spot where, I mean, look, the Blue Jays even optioned Alek Manoah again over the week, or, well, I guess late last week. I don't think many people realize that. Manoah got optioned to AAA Buffalo. And, I've talked about, I think Severino needs to be on the similar treatment as Manoah at this point. But the Yankees, because of all these injuries that we just talked about, Kyle, find themselves in a spot where you're kind of forced to just keep Severino up there now at this point. And I don't think that helps at all. I don't think that helps the team. I don't think that helps him. We've been over it with him, how I don't think any of this is good for him at this point, especially mentally. I don't think they get swept. I think the Yankees do get one, but I think it's going to be an ugly series collectively for the Yankees against the Braves. I don't see how there's a lot of positives coming into the show on Thursday when we talk about this, where I can pull from and try and be the optimist I usually am in a lot of ways with this, but I just don't see it happening. I think the Yankees get one, and I think it's tonight, and I think after that it gets bleak pretty quick.
Yeah, I don't agree.
No.
I think it's easy sweep for the Braves. Mostly being the Braves are the best offensive team. They hit tons of home runs, and when they do that, they win a lot of games, and the Yankees offense will not be able to keep up with this offense.
Yeah.
Matt Olson's red hot, 43 homers now. Austin Riley. I mean, you could just go on and on. Ronald Acuna leading off. I mean,
Ozzy Albies switch hitting with 26 home runs now, I think.
like maybe one game will be close, kind of like the Mets, what we're going to talk about soon,
Right.
but kind of like last night's Mets game. But yeah, I just see that Yankees getting overmatched, and unfortunately, that'll be their first time under 500 in a long time if they get swept here.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
That's it's something I kind of, I guess, failed to mention here, right? Is they're 1658 now. They're 13 games back of the division. In a wild card, they're 6 back. Oddly, they somehow gained a half game over the weekend to 5 games back, but I was talking about this actually yesterday. Look, crazier things have happened, but you have to make up a de facto whole week of games at this point just to be at the bottom spot. It's tough, and mathematically in my head, I still have to put the Yankees at kind of like one of those 50-50 spots at this point, but like what have they done to show me that they even deserve the 50? And it's nothing. The only thing I have to leave it at the 50-50 for is the fact that it's just numerically possible, and that's about it. You know, everything else on paper is telling me the exact opposite.
yeah, they don't string together wins, and yeah, the third wild card is still possible with 44 games left, but the thing is, they're going to need to jump 3 teams to get into that
Exactly.
spot.
Exactly.
And the team that's ahead of them now, 2 games, is the Red Sox, who they play this weekend, and they're 1-5 against.
Mhm.
So even if, say, they win 2 of 3, they still haven't won the season series, meaning that if they end up in a tiebreaker situation late in the year, Boston gets in over them. And now the Mariners are 3.5 ahead of them. And they get, I believe, the Royals starting tonight. So Yankees get swept by the Braves, and the Mariners sweep the Royals. I mean, this is what I mean. Like, this series is probably make or break, honestly.
I was about to say it's kind of like the Mets at, was it like that first week of July we were having that conversation where it's like I don't want to be that guy already, but it's more or less their do or die. This is the Yankees' do or die. It's a similar spot where they're only a couple games above 500, and it's probably not teams you want to be facing, just given how we know the things have played out. But when the writing's on the wall, it's there.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate because this series shouldn't be make or break. But they've lost these close games, they've blown games, and they put themselves in a bad spot, not stringing together wins. So they've done this to themselves. I mean, it sucks to say, but yeah, and even the Angels. I forgot to mention them. I forgot who they get tonight, but they're only 1.5 behind. As bad as they played, that just shows where the Yankees are.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't string together wins. Even the Guardians. I know the Guardians haven't been playing well, but 3.5 out.
Mm-hmm.
Yankees get swept. The Guardians win a series. The Guardians are right there, and then they're jumping more teams.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's tough to be positive with this team.
Agreed. Agreed. Speaking of tough to be positive, let's move on to the Mets, where it was just an old-fashioned ass whooping by the Braves over the weekend. I don't know another way to really put it. It was a lopsided series. Again, I don't know where to find the positive. I think the only positive I can frankly find would be Kodai Senga's start yesterday, and even then, on the heels of that comes the Mets saying that they're going to be probably looking to limit his innings now, the rest of the way, and that part to me is mind-boggling. If he was an outright like rookie, I think I would get it. But this is a guy who was a workhorse in Japan as well. He can handle a load. And again, like I said, instead of maybe taking a positive route with the Mets here to get things going for just a terrible, miserable weekend for them, we're talking in my mind about a huge negative, and one that I don't agree with in the slightest, in my opinion, because to me, is this a guy who can handle the workload? And I think doing this really sets a bad precedent for the organization, in my mind. If you're a veteran pitcher of any degree, what would make you want to sign there at this point if you know that they're going to be limiting your innings potentially if, say, the season goes sideways on you like the way it has this year with them? And I don't think it's a good move, especially for a guy who's been one of your few bright spots all year, frankly, to just limit what he's been able to do and limit what he's done anyway in previous professional seasons in Japan. And Yeah, I mean, just again another case of the Mets in my mind turning one of the few positive lights from a weekend into a negative.
Yeah, it's still hard for me to comprehend how much backwards this
Yeah.
organization has gone. I mean, yeah, you said it well. I don't know why anyone would sign there, especially what Scherzer revealed Billy Epler's comments were, and it's just this team just is not close to winning or being a World Series contender. So I think the Mets are going to be bad for several years ahead. A lot of losing baseball, kind of what they were before the last few years.
Yeah. The Mets, again, I did want to talk about with them too because, like I said, it's kind of the same thing with both teams here. We come off the heels of talking about how they looked, decent again midweek last week for their midweek series, and only to come out and look, frankly, dog boat, whatever you want to call it, boat raced Friday night, and that set the tone for the weekend. And again, the Mets doing what I call the toddler thing. They build up the base and do it pretty well. I mean, think about the way Pete Alonso was in the dugout and everything midweek to kind of the end of the weekend where it's, celebratory and then, you're banging your helmet off the thing. I don't know what's got to change there, and we aren't going to talk about it, but, I saw that there was a report similar to the one that we'll talk about with Scherzer and Verlander come out that Pete Alonso is this quote unquote, I don't know, being a cancer in the locker room. What are we doing? He's one of the few guys at this point who looks like he actually cares still out there on the team and has all year, and this is what your plan is, to have some guy leak info to help, presumably in their eyes, help their case to bring him back in on a deal or something like that. That's just dumb. And it goes back to my thing, you have this momentum going into the weekend, and I don't mean momentum they just have it and they're running away with it because they've won 6 straight games or something like that. No, but it was a good week midweek last week. You had something there that you could maybe build upon, right? And you could maybe even build upon, say they lost the series still 3 out of 4 games, right? But you don't lose 21-4. You don't get absolutely raced out of the joint 3 of the 4 games, and even then almost get swept, to be completely honest. But instead, no, you have to figure out ways, in my mind, to just, like I said, be a toddler and just take down the blocks.
Yeah, they can thank Colin McHugh last night for handing them runs. 2 bases loaded walk, then a catcher's interference. I mean, man, yeah, Braves could have easily swept this team. Nothing was really going right. Even, like I said yesterday, they were gifted runs. All series, their offense wasn't doing anything. I know the Braves have good pitching, but yeah, nothing was clicking. You could just tell they were completely overmatched. They did have a lot of opportunities Saturday in that night game, but they were 0 for 13 with runners in scoring position. And yeah, it was just a rough series. And then Lindor was scratched late in one of the games. I forgot the exact reason. I think just general soreness, but yeah, it turned in at the start of the week to a positive week into a really tough week, and they continue to get buried in the division, which we already know that's out of reach. But 22.5 now looks insane. 8.5 out of a wild card. It's tough. I mean, I can't imagine being a fan of the Mets as bad as it's been with the Yankees. There's just no positive direction they're going into right now, and still 40-some games left of this. It's going to be tough.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so I do have the Verlander quote up here, and I'll get to that in a second. But so let's backtrack here before I get to that, because we already teed it up here a little bit. Over the weekend, report came out that more or less Scherzer, Verlander were clashing in the dugout, or in the clubhouse, not the dugout, the clubhouse, and Verlander not getting along with a lot of people in the organization, kind of acting diva-ish, I believe was the term, and I'm not surprised. That's my own opinion of him anyway, and we'll get to that in a second. And I can't say I'm surprised necessarily, so before I get to the quote that Verlander just came out with, I guess we'll go here first. Can't say I'm necessarily surprised with all of it. To a degree, frankly, look back at some of the stuff pre-trade deadline, then right after too, even some of the comments surrounding there. And Max always seemed to be very much in focus with perhaps trying to get things better within the organization and the team, and trying to figure that out. Where I wouldn't say Verlander was maybe necessarily disconnected, but like remember when he was like laughing post game one time after a really bad start and everything. To me, it was like classic Verlander, and I don't know if there's maybe truth to this, and like I said, we'll get to the quote here in a second, but when that report came out, what was your, I guess, initial reaction to it?
Yeah, the thing is, I didn't hear some of these reports over the weekend. But yeah, I thought all along that Verlander, yes, he would still like to win. It's late in his career, but at the same time, he was kind of just happy with the contract and, going out there and being his best every fifth day. And I agree, it seemed like he didn't really care as much. And as for Scherzer, yeah, I mean, he's a guy, too, that's very competitive, as we know how crazy he can get in the dugout.
Bulldog.
And yeah, it would make sense to me that he isn't probably a very good teammate. Probably very quiet, too, sometimes. So yeah, I kind of do believe the reports.
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll get to more of this in a second. Now I do want to bring in literally 15 minutes ago, or maybe a little bit longer than that, Verlander tweeted this out, or well, yeah, a little bit longer though. This was at where it's 1:37 right now. This was tweeted out by Justin Verlander 39 minutes ago at 12:55 Eastern. I want to say I have nothing but respect for the Mets organization, and I enjoyed connecting with all of my teammates this season, new and old. It truly was a wonderful group of people. That being said, we all know the success of a team is made up of more than just the players on the field. Everyone's input is valuable. I'm sorry to hear that a staff member took offense to constructive criticism on how we could improve. Wishing nothing but best to the Mets moving forward. And that was from Justin Verlander on or X, Twitter, I don't know, again, what the hell we're calling it at this point, about 40 minutes ago. So, really, I think this is where I can kind of maybe initially take a springboard here. I wasn't surprised by this report coming out about Verlander and Scherzer. They didn't get along together in Detroit, and I'm not surprised. I know Scherzer can maybe come off, like you said, Kyle, but maybe standoffish to a degree or something like that. But he's a bulldog, and it's pretty apparent by the comments he made, like I said, especially around the trade deadline, where he's like, I don't know why we're trading our closer when we still have maybe this shot at it, and we were getting things kind of going a little bit. Whereas Verlander, frankly, as I've always said, he quit on Detroit when Scherzer was still there. He deliberately kind of sank the team to force his way out there, and ends up going to Houston and parlaying it into what has probably been the most fruitful part of his career, to be honest. And I've never been able to get down with Verlander after that. I've always found him to be a bit pompous anyway, a bit of that diva prima donna, so I can't say I was surprised by any of it. And frankly, that the tweet kind of backs me up on my thinking, I think, in a way that he tweeted, the way he said some things there. And because he's never been one to take constructive criticism pretty well anyway, so I'm not surprised. I won't say I'm picking Team Max versus Team Justin or something like that, but I'd rather have Max in my clubhouse. The guy's a bulldog and always will be, no matter how the chips fall. You know he'll always have your back, and I don't think you can say the same about Verlander.
Yeah, I think you said it well. And as for the Pete Alonso stuff, who reported that?
That one I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably just another guy that, is frustrated because he wants to win. And, I mean, I don't know exactly, like, what he did in the clubhouse or whatever the report was, but I'm sure he just probably showed anger, and as he should. I mean, some of these guys do care about just winning instead of just money, and I'm actually pretty sure now that Alonso will not be signing an extension with the Mets. I truly believe he'll want out. He'll want to go somewhere where he can win. As we kind of discussed before, he's approaching 30 years old. And you don't want to just stay on a team that's basically rebuilding and not going to be a World Series contender for several years. So
is it bad now? I'm just like kind of hounding X, Twitter, whatever. I need a rebuttal from somebody here. Like, I want it in the worst way. Because we know that's how the New York media works with these types of things. So, whatever. All right, let's talk about some roster updates here for the Mets. Outfielder Starling Marte says he expects to be back this season. However, he won't be activated from the injured list when eligible this Wednesday, dealing again with the groin issues and everything like that. Uh, I don't know if this is a case like Rizzo necessarily, where it's like you can shut him down for the year or anything like that, but um, certainly I think he expects to be back sooner than the Mets expect him to be back. And I feel like we might be coming to a very interesting situation here in the coming 7 to 10-ish days. You know what I mean? Where I think he thinks he could be good to go, and the team's like, I don't know about that.
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, he's not missed.
Right.
His outfield defense has not been good this year. We could make a highlight reel of that. His offense, he hasn't lived up to his expectations. And yeah, I think they should. I mean, Tim LeCastro's in center the other night. Let him keep playing. Let McNeil keep playing in right. And Ortega was playing last night, had a big hit. So yeah, I mean, just don't come back at this point.
Right. Speaking of shutting guys down or not coming back, Edwin Diaz throwing from the base of the mound now, as he's slowly at this point I would call progressing along. I'm guessing at this point he probably won't be back. I think if he was throwing from the rubber on the mound, we might be having a different discussion, but we know he's been doing long toss and stuff like that. Now he's kind of working from the base of the mound. That tells me that they are working on kind of the lower body stuff more, getting the velo back, workshopping things down low a little bit more. So I wouldn't expect him back at this point. I think I've shifted my opinion on that because of this latest update. I know, Kyle, you were pretty much adamant on thinking that he wouldn't be back anyway, right, if I remember right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. I would say nothing for you there new, but for me, certainly something new, I guess. But certainly, I guess progress is progress for him at this point, given the way everything went down. And hopefully, like I said, it will be full bore at this point for 2024.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure he's probably second-guessing his contract extension. Now he's with a team that's not going anywhere. So it's a good thing he has an opt-out in 2026 because that might be happening. He's going to be 32 by then, and who wants to play on a team that's not competitive?
It's fair. It's fair.
As a closer, no less.
Right. All right. Sam Coonrod, the right-handed reliever, should be joining the Mets within the coming days here at this point. His rehab clock is set to expire here in a day or so. So he's been out at Syracuse all the time. They expect him up. This will be more or less his tryout for the Mets bullpen next year, the way they said they're going to treat it.
Yeah, and anyone can make that bullpen.
Right.
With how bad it
but
is.
yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to kind of see what happens there. Speaking of relievers, Alicia Hernandez transferred to the 60-day injured list. Season is expected to be lost for him. He didn't pitch at all at the big leagues this year, had some limited time rehab-wise at Syracuse and St. Lucie, so Mets acquisition, a lower tier one this past offseason, will not be seeing the field in 2023.
Yeah, I don't even know what to say about this team. I mean, there's just some things going on that, like, it feels like a dream.
Yeah.
Like, where we started at the beginning of the year to now, it's like, it's so crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, even the bullpen outlook is different. These injuries are just, I mean, some of these guys, I mean, fans don't even know. Like, Denny Reyes started the game the other night. I mean, is that on your bingo card for the Mets in 2023? Jeez.
Speaking of Denny Reyes, he was optioned to AAA Syracuse after that start. He was recalled and selected and optioned.
And that wasn't fair. He faced the Braves offense.
Right. I mean,
like,
yeah, they're the poor pitching staff of this team. Tyson Miller recalled from AAA Syracuse, as you already mentioned to a degree here, Kyle. Tim LeCastro activated from the injured list. Jimmy Yacobonis, righty, was designated for assignment, and right-handers Edwin Uceda and Reed Garrett also optioned to AAA Syracuse. So the Syracuse shuttle of bullpen arms is certainly making the rounds once again here in the past week.
Man, these arms that are going up and down clearly aren't helping Syracuse either, based on their record.
Oh. Yeah, we'll get to them here in a second. As for the Mets, they welcome the Pittsburgh Pirates to town to begin the week and continue this homestand. 3 games, Monday through Wednesday. Tonight, 7:10 on SNY, to be determined for the Pirates against Carlos Carrasco. Tuesday, 7:10 on SNY, to be determined versus David Peterson. And Wednesday, 1:10 on SNY or MLB Network, depending upon your market, to be determined against Tyler Megill. So this has some big implications, actually, standings-wise. If there's ever a somehow backdoor chance of the Mets making the playoffs via the wild card, this is an interesting one because they're tied in the wild card in 8th right now. That would put them 5 slots back of the 3rd seed, 8.5 games back. And the team they are tied with in that 8th spot are the Pittsburgh Pirates. So it's interesting.
Pirates have a starter now.
Oh, they do.
22-year-old Quinn Priester.
Oh.
Only appeared in 5 big league games. He's starting tonight.
Okay.
8.75 ERA.
So, yeah, this is an interesting one. The Pirates lost in devastating fashion last night. Bullpen imploded against Cincinnati. They had them on the ropes, and it didn't happen. Everything in my body wants me to take the Pirates to win the series, but I just don't think I can actually at this point. I think the Mets get 2 of 3. Which is really, I guess, weird saying it, but, like, in theory, they should beat the Pirates. Like, I'm trying to envision a way that they lose a series, even though, like, everything tells me that they should. I just can't find a way that they do. So I think I'm going to go with the Mets. I don't think they sweep, but I think they take 2 of 3.
I'll take the Pirates 2 of 3. They've already lost a series to them this year.
Oh, wow.
Even with their full team before they had a total sell-off. But,
right.
Yeah, I'll take the Pirates. It's going to be tough, though, because the Pirates haven't been playing well either since they got off to such a great start.
Right.
So, yeah. But it wouldn't surprise me if the Mets do win the series.
Yeah. All right, let's, before we get out of here, discuss Rochester and Syracuse. Was, like I mentioned, rough weeks even for them. Both Rochester and Syracuse lost their week-long series 2-4 respectively. Rochester at home against Lehigh Valley and Syracuse on the road at Scranton Wilkes-Barre. Begin with Rochester. Travis Blankenhorn hit his 100th career minor league home run this weekend.
Wow.
And I know what people might be thinking. That's still a pretty impressive feat. You know, I don't know where it really technically puts him, but triple digits in the minor leagues is an interesting era to kind of be in, and it kind of unfairly labels a lot of people as whether it's bust or prospect bust or quad A players or something like that. And I don't want to say that it's not a problem. I don't know, but these guys like him, they make up I think a sneaky percentage of AAA baseball that I think gets underwritten. The first name comes to mind is a guy by the name of Mike Herman, who I don't know if you remember him at all, Kyle, the name anyway. I remember him always. He had multiple stints with the Mud Hens, but he's the AAA career all-time leader in home runs. He's now actually the hitting coach for Toledo, but it wasn't a bad way to make a living. He said that he'd much rather did it over here, and he said there was nothing wrong. He said he had a ton of offers at certain points to go to Korea or Japan to play, but he preferred having the opportunity to possibly get back to the big leagues. And he did have a couple spots here and there with the Tigers in the mid-2000s, but never could fully cross over to be that full-time guy. But, you know, these guys like Travis are a huge part of minor league baseball in America, and I think stuff like this shouldn't be swept under the rug.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's still a cool accomplishment, regardless if it's not the majors. I mean, it's still tough to do. You get some good pitchers down there in AAA, some young prospects that you're facing. So, yeah, I would say this is a really cool achievement, and hopefully eventually, you know, he kind of gets another chance at the big league level.
Yeah, which I think, you know, given Washington, you never know what the end of the year might hold for them, and you might see him up. But for Rochester as well, Thruway Cup Series this week for them, but in Buffalo. For them, some roster with Luis Reyes, a right-hander, was assigned from AA Harrisburg. Catcher Brady Lindsley, assigned from AA Harrisburg as well. Name to keep an eye on there. Top catching prospect for the Nationals. And they have a couple good ones. I mean, Riley Adams already up in Kybert Ruiz, so he's going to be a name to keep an eye on as well. With that, though, catcher Jacob Nottingham was released, as was outfielder Franmel Reyes. So a couple of the veterans taking their opt-out clauses. I know Franmel was passed by a couple of them before he finally took it, and it's tough, but it is what it is. For Syracuse, do want to talk a couple different things with them that were interesting. Jeff Brigham will begin there, suspended for a foreign substance. Kyle, you sent me the video of that, and not the first time this has happened to a Syracuse Met pitcher this year. I believe the first one goes to the former Met, who has been released since, Dylan Bundy. But yeah, just one of those things where how can you be that dumb to be caught, I guess, in a way. But yeah, I mean, for a bullpen and I guess maybe collectively a pitching staff, right, who they need arms in every worst way because of how the big league club is obviously operating. This is a tough blow for the Syracuse Mets.
Yeah, it's something about the Mets organization. I mean,
Yeah,
Max Scherzer.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
Max Scherzer, Drew Smith.
Yep.
Like you just said, the two guys now in AAA. It's just, I'm sure it's happening in other organizations, but it doesn't seem as much. I mean, two at the big league level, two at AAA. Like, I don't know what's going on and around the league, but it just seems like they might have the most guys caught.
Kind of wild. All right, so Syracuse has a theme night this week coming up. They're home against Columbus this week. I'll actually be there tomorrow as long as the weather holds up. I'll be living the sweet life tomorrow.
Oh, nice.
Yes. So Syracuse will become the shot clock Saturday, and you may be wondering why would they be calling some of the Syracuse shot clocks for baseball? But it's interesting, and they're honoring a de facto Syracuse native in Danny Biasoni. He was the owner of the Syracuse Nationals of the NBA, who are now the, do you know, Kyle? Trivia time? Any guess?
Jeez.
You don't know, do you?
Putting me on the spotlight.
I know.
No, I don't want to even guess because it'll be
The
worse.
Philadelphia 76ers.
Ooh,
How about
okay.
that? Yeah, Sixers' first championship came in Syracuse. But Biasoni, although he didn't invent the shot clock technically, was the adapter for it for the NBA. And so they are honoring him this weekend when they become the shot clock Saturday night. So it's an interesting one. It's one of the main reasons why I love minor league baseball. You just never know what pops up from time to time. Couple news and notes here as well for the roster. Right-handed pitcher Jose Chacin was assigned from AA Binghamton to replace Brigham on the roster while he has been suspended. Quick Charlotte Knights update because we have adopted them as our third honorary minor league team. Kyle, their record going into this week, they did not win a game last week. Leaves them at 6-33 at the basement of the International League in the second half.
Wow, 6-33.
Yes.
Jeez. Do they play any teams that are like sort of around their record coming up, where they would have a chance to get some wins?
Well, I think it might depend what you mean by that, but no, they do not.
Like who was in front of them?
Syracuse.
Okay.
Who is at 13-25 now.
Okay.
I forget the team in between them though, admittedly, at the moment. It's one of those I'd have to double check.
Jeez, how are they not even getting?
Well, I know the team above them has like 12 wins. Like they're 6 games back of the next closest opponent.
Like they're not even catching a break. They're not even getting one lucky win. Jeez.
Nothing. All right, so that'll take care of Concrete Jungle for today. Appreciate everybody for tuning in, live or otherwise here. We will be back Thursday at, it will be in the afternoon. It will probably be closer to 2 o'clock though by the time we get live. It's a busy day in studio Thursday in the morning, so surprise Kyle, but we'll still be in the afternoon, somewhere between 1 and 2 more than likely, as opposed to right at 1. Yeah, I already said what I'm doing, hopefully, especially tomorrow, but any big plans? I know for you, Kyle, a little football action over the weekend. Bills got a preseason victory.
I have some news on that.
I don't know if you actually watched a ton of it. I know for me personally, I can't do a lot of preseason football outside of watching Ben DiNucci or Trace McSorley for the meme purposes, but sometimes it's just ugly and I can't deal with it. And I know the Bills won pretty handily, but did you end up watching a ton of it at all, or not so much?
So here's the story.
Uh-oh.
DirecTV,
Oh no.
who I have,
Oh no.
is in a disagreement with, I forgot the company's name that owns Channel 8.
So CBS, so that'd be
Next Star Group.
That'd be Viacom. Oh well,
Said
yeah.
Nexstar
In
Group
that
on the
way,
message.
yeah.
So they have taken it off DirecTV, and it's been off DirecTV for about 10 days or so.
Oh boy.
And until they come, to an agreement, Channel 8 will not be available for me. Meaning that whenever they're on CBS,
Right.
I won't be watching. Won't be able to watch unless they come on Red Zone, because I have Red Zone. But thankfully, week 1, it's Monday Night Football. But maybe by week 2, when they play the Raiders, it'll be back, which is over a month from now. But yeah, I totally couldn't watch the game. I was shocked. I turned Channel 8 and couldn't watch. So that was the first time I've actually missed even a preseason game in a long time.
Wow.
Yeah, so I did see some, of course, Twitter highlights and stuff. But yeah, I'm not huge into preseason either. It's kind of good just to at least watch the first quarter, when the starters are playing a lot. But looking forward to the actual date. Regular season opener, September 7th. Lions in the Chiefs. It's an interesting first matchup. So yeah, right now it's baseball and preseason football for me.
Love it. Nothing better.
And trying to not care about the Yankees and maybe care about other teams a little more.
The Charlotte Knights, for example.
The NL wildcard race is getting interesting, so maybe that'll be something.
Yes. So that will do it for today then. We'll be back on Thursday like I mentioned. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. We'll talk with everybody then.
FingerLakes1.com